She is a native of San Antonio, but San Antonio's loss is Austin, Texas's gain because she now lives in Austin. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Captain Queta Rordriguez Marquez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you to the three amigos, or three amigas as they like to call them. Congratulations on a very successful, from what I understand, state convention, the city of San Marcos, Seguin, and Gonzales. Thank you very much for putting this together and having me here as a guest. As you just heard, I am a retired Marine. I served 20 years, and after being away from home for so long, it is so good to be back here in my neck of the woods, as I like to call it, the great state of Texas. They say that home is where the heart is, and I can tell you that no matter where I've been over the last 20 years, East Coast, West Coast, overseas, my heart has always been here. And I know that it always will remain here. This location in particular has a very special meaning for me. I have roots here. My grandmother, Felicitas Rordriguez, and my great-grandmother, Maria Hernandez Rordriguez, both were from here in San Marcos. They were two women who did not have a formal education, but the will strong as an ox. I'm so fortunate to have had that ancestry. Since the time that they could walk, they were introduced to the hardships of working in the fields. But by listening to them tell their beautiful stories, you could hardly tell what they went through. I don't know as much about them as I would like, but I do know that they, and many women just like them, had to endure some of the most challenging times in our history. They have endured challenges, and they've struggled so that their families and future generations could prosper and have a better life. My grandmother Felicitas and Nana, or Nana as we like to call her, she eventually settled in San Antonio. She went to work as a pecan sheller in a factory, working for terrible wages and in horrible conditions. Yet, she joined the cause, a cause led by a very powerful woman, legendary woman, Emma Tanayuca. My grandmother was very proud of that. She would brag about how she attended meetings and participated in demonstrations. While she wasn't formally educated, she knew the importance of the cause. She also told this story about a pastor at a Christian church that she used to attend. The pastor was giving his sermon, and during his sermon, he was admonishing what Emma was doing, saying that it was not right, unchristian, she was communist. As the sermon progressed, one brave woman stood up and said very pointedly to the pastor, "If we're not going to fight that, are you going to support us, and are you going to support our families to ensure that they have a better life?" As you can imagine, silence ensued. The pastor continued with the sermon, but never again mentioned Emma. It is this spirit, this fight, this determination, this will, that makes ordinary people great people. Turns them into great ones. People that have names that we know, like the great Cesar Chavez, one of my all-time heroes. And people whose names we don't know. Those who have struggled or have had that will and determination to fight for justice for all human beings. For everyone to have the same opportunities, the same prosperity that is promised to us by the Constitution of the United States. Having been a Marine for 20 years, I have known many phenomenal people. I've known some great leaders and great followers. And let me tell you that you need both to be successful in any battle. I know about will and determination and challenge and hardship because I've seen it on the faces of many Marines. My own sense of obligation to my fellow Marines, my country, my family, my community, and to myself is what has driven me for so many years. Like most of you, and like most of the general population, we all have faced many challenges. I'll just tell you really briefly a little bit about my story. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1991 as a private first class, much to the dismay of my parents, especially my mother, who told me, "That's loca, what are you doing?" But I went on, and I was successful. By my own standards, and I think by many people's standards. Why? Because I took advantage of the opportunities that were before me. I worked hard, I had will, I had determination. A lot of the things that I had learned from seeing people who had gone before me, by seeing the example of my parents, and seeing many people like you that belong to this great organization. I went on to become an intelligence analyst. My very first duty station, probably about 3 weeks after I arrived, I was shipped off to Somalia. Not a fun place. That was challenging in itself. And here I was, and now a new Lance Corporal, still very low ranking, standing there as an intelligence briefer on a daily basis for the General and his staff, every day. And guess what? I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't afraid to stand up there and do my job to the best of my ability. Again, because of the example of the people who have gone before me. Sure, I've had to face many challenges, stereotypes. I was a woman in a male-dominated environment. I was a Hispanic in an organization that is predominantly Caucasian. But I never let that deter me. And again, I go back to the example of those that have gone before me. Sure, once in a while, come across, you have to remember that when as I was growing up in the Marine Corps, we were at the height of the affirmative action movement. And so there were some perceptions that my success may have been attributed to those programs. I was once asked by a senior officer, and here I am, a lowly sergeant, as I would call myself. So, do you think that you deserve to be accepted to this officer program for which you're applying because you're Hispanic and you're a female? My response was a very respectful, "No, sir. I deserve it because I'm a damn good Marine and I know my job and I can run circles around the people that are left and right of me." He was like, "Oh, okay, I got it. Thank you." I went on to become an officer 10 years later, and it was opportunity that was there for me. And again, I have to be thankful because if it wasn't for organizations like this, many of the leaders, great civil rights leaders, like Cesar Chavez, like Martin Luther King, some of the many famous people that we can point to in history, I would not have had those opportunities. At my very last duty station, probably the most challenging of all, I was at the headquarters for all U.S. Marine Corps forces in Iraq, Afghanistan, and throughout the Middle East. I traveled extensively out there. And this organization was very top-heavy. I was a junior officer at this time, a captain, and that's what I retired as. But never once did I let that intimidate me. I had a seat at the table, which is what we've always been asking for, a seat at the table and the respect and dignity that we all deserve if we only do our job and we pull our own weight. There are brave young men and women fighting a war day in and day out. And I will tell you the challenges that I have had are nothing compared to many of theirs. They are out there to keep our country strong, safe, and free so that people here at home can have the freedoms and liberties that so many people in other parts of the world enjoy. Likewise, my challenges pale in comparison to those of the many brave men and women here at home who had fought battles at the forefront of the civil rights movements for justice, equality, and the civil right to pursue for the pursuit of life and happiness. I'm very familiar with the word hero, and I have known many as a Marine. But I have also known many that have gone before me here at home, people who have continued that cause. You have some here within LULAC. I know you know this. Many women, and I realize it's the women's luncheon, and I apologize that I've had a history. My 20 years has been in a male-dominated organization, but guess what? I know that behind every strong man, there is a darn good woman. I've grown up watching people like my grandmother Nana, who has struggled and basically done everything within her power to make sure that her family was cared for. Personally, I have my own parents. My mother, Lourdes Galvan, who would give any drill instructor a run for their money. Of course, my father, Henry Rordriguez as well, both of you. Both of you have worked so hard their entire lifetime to ensure that everyone has access to education, to opportunity, to healthcare, to good housing, all of those things, to fight for everyone to have those opportunities, and especially for those who can't fight for themselves. I've been away for 20 years, but I've had very close contact with my parents, and I know of many of your leaders, people and women like in LULAC, like their national president, Margaret Moran, your state director, Linda Chavez, your past president, Rosa Rosales, and other many strong women like Angie. I know all of these women that have gone before me have had an impact on my success. I feel like I am an example and a prodigy and a product of this strong women leadership. As we all know, since 1929, LULAC has had an illustrious history, struggles, challenges, and all. And we need to remain cognizant that we are only as good as what we bring to the table. It was no different in the Marine Corps. Just as I told each of my Marines, you all need to pull your own weight, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. Yes, it takes the individual, the courage of the individual, the strength, the will, the determination of the individual, but it is that team effort that makes the organization the great organization that it is. I will tell you that no matter where I've been, I've never forgotten where I come from. Yet I always look forward to new challenges. I always remember to look ahead and see what it is that I can do, not just for myself, but for my community and those that go behind me. That youth that's coming up. You know, I'm 41 years old. No, I'm not 21, as Mr. Farouk Shari mentioned. But I realize that there's a lot of youth and there's a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of need. We need to encourage our youth to pursue that education, to be competent, to be deserving of that seat at the table. We all do. Again, never forgetting my roots. I have to close this with a poem that was written by my father, because I think he'll kill me if I don't recite it. It's something that was ingrained in me from a very young age, and something I started reciting probably at the age of 9. And it goes something like this. Una chicanita como yo, simple, firme, alegre y sonriente, común, pero no corriente. Con escaso 41 años de vivir, muy bien se puede decir que ni de mi concha he sabido salir. Hay gente que al oírme decir, yo soy chicana, me arrebatan y me hablan con alarma. Pero criatura de Dios, qué cosa tan horrible, qué pecado, qué corriente, qué porquería te han enseñado. Tú no eres chicana, tú eres México-americana, tú eres hispana, tú eres latina, tú eres simplemente americana. Pero mi papá me dice, guacha mi chavalona, ¿por qué eres medio pachucón? Tú eres lo que tú sientes ser. Pero si caso le haces a la gente, acabarás por enloquecer. Yo respondo, sí señora, sí señor, porque mis padres y mi cultura me han enseñado a respetar a todo el que es mayor. Este mundo seguirá su paso y la humanidad con su progreso, pero esta chicanita llamada Queta, simple, firme, alegre y sonriente, con orgullo, siempre será chicana, pero jamás corriente. ¡Que viva la raza!
Henry, and she's your daughter?
That's what they say.
That was awesome. It feels so good to see somebody so young, so beautiful, and a woman Sanchez Burros, and I recorded that. But I would like to ask Mr. Hector Flores.
They're going to arrest you for shoplifting, you watch out. We had a chance to it, and I did not know that was you until this moment. But what a beautiful, beautiful speech. Hey, let's hear it for her. Send us to our country. Let her hear it. Wow, come on. You have a back, huh? 20 years service to our country. Henry, please got mine. Congratulations. What a beautiful example of a young lady that's contributing, that has already contributed to our country, but will continue contributing to our great country. I've been given the task of introducing a friend of LULAC,